We are back yet again with the Premier League Gameweek 31 predictions. And as usual, we will cover the games and predict them. So the standout games this week are Brighton versus Liverpool and Newcastle versus Sunderland. I just want to say Arsenal and City don't play this week due to them playing the final of the Carabao Cup on Sunday and other competitions as well. So let's get right into the video. Let's start off with Bournemouth versus Manchester United. It's going to be a very good game in my opinion. So let's get started with Bournemouth. They've been doing quite alright this season. Their form has actually gotten better. I swear a few weeks ago or months ago they were losing so many games or dropping so many points. Now they've turned up performing wise. They've gotten better results. I would say with players like Ryan and Krupi being in the squad, those two have been pretty key. They did draw 0-0 against Burnley, which is quite surprising, I'm not gonna lie. Onto Manchester United, they have been doing very well. They've been very impressive recently. Carrick has done so well, turning their form around. Now, Manchester United have really been playing some solid football. Bruno is on 16 assists with 7 games to go, so he could break the assist record. But Sesko has been one of the most informed strikers in 2026. I believe he scored in nearly every single game in 2026. That's kind of crazy. The last game Manchester United played Aston Villa and they beat them 3-1. So Champions League football is looking very likely for Manchester United. Now my prediction is going to be a 3-1 win for Man United. Moving on to Brighton versus Liverpool. This might be one of the tightest games. So let's get started with Brighton. They have been doing quite well. I would say form-wise especially is picked up recently for them. They've been getting some solid results against solid teams this season. Like last game they played Sunderland at their home ground. By the way, Brighton ended up winning that match 1-0 thanks to Minta. It was an interesting goal to say the least, if I'm being honest. But as I always say, they're just such a good footballing team regardless of the results. But onto Liverpool, they've been doing quite alright this season. The performances and the results recently have not been it. I'm sure Arne Slot will get sacked soon because honestly I'm not sure how he still is in the job after those 2 losses against Wolves and a draw against Spurs. It's kind of crazy. A lot of Liverpool fans want him out. The board's still backing him for some reason, but yeah, Salah has dropped off in terms of just his overall play this season. Maybe it's due to the squad being not too good, barely getting any service, I don't know, but it's a little bit sad if I'm honest. But my prediction, it's going to be a 2-1 win for Brighton. Moving on to Fulham versus Burnley. This should be quite the decent game. So let's get started with Fulham. They've been doing not too bad this season. Their performances and results recently have been a little bit poor. I did call this club a underrated kind of team. I mean, which they are because they are on form. The last game though, they played Nottingham Forest and they drew 0-0. They performed very poor on the offensive side based off the stats. They just had 1 shot on target all game. That's very poor. But onto Burnley, they've been doing pretty poor this season. I'm not gonna lie, definitely one of the worst teams in the league. Hands down. I genuinely think they're probably guaranteed to go down at this point. I don't think they're gonna stay up because all their remaining matches are still pretty tough. And last game they played Bournemouth and they drew 0-0, but still that 0-0 result is still not enough to stay up. They need the wins in these next few matches, but they could potentially get a win here versus Fulham, who knows. But my prediction is going to be a 3-1 win for Fulham. Moving on to Everton versus Chelsea. This game is going to be super underrated. So let's get started with Everton. They have been actually quite good this season. At the moment, they're sitting in 8th place. So there is a slight chance that they could get European football, which is wild. I would say they have been super underrated ever since David Moyes came into the club as the coach. And I mean, last game they played Arsenal and they lost 2-0. but still they gave us a very rough game. Like later into the match, obviously Dowman came into the game and he won the game for Arsenal. But yeah, Everton did have some chances, they just could not put them away. Iliman Ndiaye looked pretty good in that match as well. Surely he moves in the summer to a bigger club. But on to Chelsea, they've been doing alright this season. Results recently have been quite poor, I'm not gonna lie. Like, sure, they beat Aston Villa at the beginning of March, but that's it though. In the past 5 matches, they have only won 1 of those matches. So last game they played Newcastle and they lost 1-0. So yeah, European football is slowly slipping away from Chelsea. And on top of that, Reece James, we got the news today, he is injured for 7 weeks. So yeah, another key player gone for Chelsea. But yeah, my prediction for this match, it's gonna be a 1-1 draw. Moving on to Leeds United versus Brentford. This is gonna be a very underrated match in my opinion. So let's get started with Leeds United. They've been doing not too bad this season. Surprisingly, they're not too far off the relegation zone. As it stands, they're just 3 points off. So huge pressure is on this game. But yeah, last game they played Crystal Palace and they drew 0-0. Gudmundsson got a red card and yeah, he's gonna be out for this match. Calvert-Lewin, I heard, got a penalty and he missed it. He could have literally won the match for them, but this guy did not put it away. But this team, I think, is very good in terms of the attacking and the press at times. Defensively, they could be a little bit shaky. But onto Brentford, they've been doing very well this season, currently sitting in 7th place in the Premier League, and most definitely they will be pushing for European football. Their form as of recent has been alright. Like last game they played and drew 2-2, even though they were 2-0 up against Wolves, I believe. And Igor Thiago added another goal to his tally, so he's up to 19 goals, and Haaland is at 22 at the top. So Igor Thiago could win the Golden Boot if he continues at this rate. But I would say this team is a strong, organized team and a very good team with those long throw-ins. Those are super dangerous. But my prediction is going to be a 2-1 win for Brentford. Moving on to Newcastle versus Sunderland. This one is going to be very tough for both teams. So let's get started with Newcastle. They've been doing quite alright this season. At one point, I believe they were around 15th place. Now they have bumped up to 9th place, which is solid. Like last game, they played Chelsea and they beat them 1-0. I did not see that coming at all, but Anthony Gordon winning it for them. He's come in clutch multiple times for his club this season. But Newcastle, in my opinion, are a very strong team defensively, and on the counter they could definitely hurt you. But onto Sunderland, they have been doing quite decent this season. Recently, in terms of results, they have been struggling a little bit. They have dropped down to 13th place. Before, they were around 7th place. And last game, they played Brighton and they lost 1-0 at the Stadium of Light. I believe they've only lost like 3 matches at home this season. And the goal, it was a rough one to concede from a very tough angle on the right side, but Sunderland did not have many clear chances created, so they could not really score any goals in that match. But my prediction for this match is going to be a 1-1 draw between the two. Moving on to Aston Villa versus West Ham. Actually, I do believe this game could go either way. So let's get started with Aston Villa. I mean, they've been doing quite well this season. Their form, it's been so poor recently. It's actually crazy. I've not won a single game since last month. I believe since February 11th versus Brighton, where they won 1-0. And if they continue at this rate, they could drop out of the top 4. And last game they played Manchester United and they lost 3-1. I mean, we do have to take into account that they have players injured like Kamara and Telemans, who are very key. Honestly, I could see them dropping out of the top 4 if they continue at this rate. On to West Ham, they have been doing not the best this season. Although their performances are getting better, they could definitely get out of the relegation zone, as they are level with points with Nottingham Forest on 29 points. So last game they put up a not too good performance, versus Man City, but they still drew 1-1. They got a point from that, and West Ham only had one shot on target, and that was the goal. Mavropanos scoring the header, and he also made a very key goal line clearance, which, I mean, it was really important because they ended up getting a point due to that. But my prediction for this match is going to be a 2-1 win for Aston Villa. Moving on to Tottenham versus Nottingham Forest, I really do see this game being tight because both these teams are in a relegation battle, so it's kind of like a battle of the relegation clubs. So let's get started with Tottenham. They've been doing quite poor this season. Relegation is genuinely on the cards for them, which is wild. If you told me this at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have believed you. But Spurs are just 1 point off of 18th place, so the pressure is well and truly on. And last game they played Liverpool and they drew 1-1. I mean, they managed to put up a decent performance, Richarlison scoring the goal as well, but Xavi Simons, man, what has happened to this guy? He was so good at Leipzig, he moved to Tottenham. I don't know, he's kind of lost his feet a little bit at Tottenham. But on to Nottingham Forest. They've been doing not too well this season. Forest are in the exact same spot as Tottenham, so this game, as I said before, is huge in terms of staying out of the relegation zone, especially if West Ham win their match against Aston Villa. Now, they have been doing quite alright form-wise, but last game they played Fulham and they drew 0-0 under Vitor Pereira. Now, Forest were probably the better side that match as well, but I mean, for this game specifically, I'm sure both clubs will be up for it. And I mean, they have to be fired up for this match. It's guaranteed that one of these teams is probably going to be in the relegation zone. But yeah, my prediction for this game is going to be a 2-1 win for Nottingham Forest. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. Don't forget to drop a like, comment down below your predictions for these matches, and don't forget to subscribe as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.